2 weeks after my dad's funeral, my stepmother slid a lease across the counter. Pay rent or leave. Then my stepbrother smiled and said, I already measured your room. So I locked my bedroom door and made one phone call. The paper was still on the kitchen island when I walked away. I remember staring at it for a few seconds longer than I should have, because my brain kept refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. At the top, in bold print, it said residential lease agreement. My father had been dead for 14 days. 14 days before that morning, I had been standing in a hospital hallway while a nurse with kind eyes told me they had done everything they could. My dad, Brian, had left home that afternoon like it was any normal day. He forgot his lunch on the counter, texted me a thumbs-up emoji when I reminded him, and never came home. A massive heart attack. That was the phrase everyone kept using. Sudden. Massive. Nothing anyone could have done. People say those words like they make grief easier to understand. They don't. They just make the loss feel more violent. 1 minute there is a person. The next minute everyone is explaining why that person is never coming back. For 2 weeks, I moved through the house like a ghost. I signed papers I barely read. I thanked people for casseroles I didn't eat. I sat in my car in the driveway with both hands on the steering wheel, trying to force myself to breathe before going inside. That house was the only place in the world that still felt connected to both of my parents. Not because my dad had built it or bought it. He hadn't. The house had belonged to my mother, Laura. She bought it before she ever met him. She loved that house in a way some people love art. She knew which windows caught the best morning light. She planted roses along the fence herself. She chose the crown molding in the hallway and made my dad repaint the dining room twice because the first shade of blue looked too cold after sunset. When she got sick, I was too young to understand most of what was happening. I knew the house got quieter. I knew adults whispered in the kitchen. I knew my mom's hands started feeling thinner when she held mine. But she understood everything. Before she died, she made arrangements. Legal arrangements. The kind people think children don't hear about because they're too busy crying into pillows and trying to survive school the next day. My mom left the house protected. My dad was allowed to live there for the rest of his life. That was the agreement. He could stay, raise me there, and treat it as home. But he could not sell it. He could not borrow against it. He could not give it to someone else. When his life ended, the house was supposed to pass to me. I knew that in the loose way a kid knows something important but doesn't fully understand the weight of it. My mom had told me, no one can take your home from you. For years, I thought that was just something she said because she was dying and wanted me to feel safe. Then Donna came into our lives. She married my dad when I was already old enough to know what a forced smile looked like. At first, everyone acted like I should be grateful. People said my father deserved happiness. They said I needed a woman in the house again. They said Donna was trying. Maybe she was, in the beginning. But she never tried with me. She was polite when other people were watching, but cold when they weren't. She would move my things and call it cleaning. She would throw away food I bought and say there was no room. She would make little comments that sounded harmless unless you were the person they were aimed at. You're still sleeping this late? Your father worries about you. Some people get too comfortable being taken care of. It was always small enough that if I complained, I looked dramatic. Sharp enough that I felt it for hours. Her son, Ryan, started treating the house like it was already his. He left wires across the living room, blasted videos late at night, and talked about turning one of the bedrooms into a setup room, like I wasn't already living in the one he wanted. Her daughter, Melissa, came and went. She wasn't as cruel as Ryan, but she never pushed back either. She watched things happen and looked away. My dad hated conflict. That was his biggest flaw. He loved me, but he also loved quiet. When Donna made me feel unwelcome, he would wait until she left the room, rub his forehead, and say, "Just try to keep the peace, Ash." So I kept it. I swallowed every comment. I stayed in my room. I saved what I could and told myself I would leave when I was ready. I thought moving out would be the clean ending. I never imagined my father would die first. And I never imagined his wife would wait 2 weeks before trying to charge me rent in my dead mother's house. That morning, Donna stood across from me in the kitchen, fully dressed and perfectly calm. Her hair was styled. Her makeup was done. She looked less like a grieving widow and more like someone about to close a deal. I looked down at the lease again. "You can't be serious," I said. She folded her arms. "I am completely serious. My dad just died. I'm aware." The way she said it made something inside me go cold. She tapped one red nail against the paper. "The household has to adjust now. Your father handled too much. That stops today. I didn't touch the lease. What is this? It's a lease agreement. I can read. Then read the amount. My eyes dropped to the middle of the page. $1,200 a month. Plus utilities. Plus a security deposit. For my own bedroom. I looked back up at her. You want me to pay you rent? If you intend to stay here, yes. This is my home. Donna's face didn't change. This was your father's home. He's gone. I'm his surviving spouse. That means I'm responsible for the property now. Every word sounded rehearsed. I stared at her, waiting for some sign that grief had twisted her judgment. Some hint of shame. Some flicker of humanity. There was nothing. She continued, you're old enough to contribute. If you can't, then you need to be realistic about your options. What options? You have 30 days to leave. The room went silent except for the coffee maker behind me, still dripping like nothing had happened. Then Ryan appeared in the hallway. He leaned one shoulder against the wall with that lazy, smug look he always had when he knew Donna was about to get her way. He held a tape measure in one hand. I looked at it, then at him. He smiled. I already measured your room. The closet is perfect for equipment. My stomach turned. Donna didn't correct him. She didn't even look embarrassed. She slid the lease closer to me. You have 48 hours to sign. After that, I'll assume you've chosen to leave. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to throw the paper back in her face. I wanted to ask how someone could stand in the kitchen where my mother used to braid my hair and talk to me like I was a tenant she regretted taking in. But I didn't scream. I picked up the lease with a hand that barely felt attached to my body. I folded it once slowly, because if I moved too fast I knew I would fall apart. Donna watched me. Ryan's smile widened. I turned around and walked upstairs. Behind me, Donna said, "This is what adulthood looks like, Ashley." I didn't answer. I went into my bedroom, shut the door, and locked it. For a few seconds, I just stood there. My bed was unmade. My dad's old sweatshirt was still on the chair where I had left it. A sympathy card from one of his friends sat unopened on my dresser. Everything looked exactly the same, and yet the whole world had changed again. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened the lease. The first line had my name on it. Ashley. Not daughter. Not family. Not grieving child. Just a name on a document. That was when the panic hardened into something colder. I looked across the room at a framed photo of my mother. She was standing in the backyard garden, smiling with dirt on her knees, one hand shielding her eyes from the sun. My dad had taken that picture. He used to say it was the happiest she ever looked. My mother had known people could become cruel when property was involved. She had known love did not always protect what mattered. And suddenly, I remembered the person she trusted with everything. Daniel. I hadn't called that office in years. I didn't even know if the number was still the same. But I searched through an old email from my dad, found the contact, and pressed call before I could lose my nerve. My hands were shaking when the line started ringing. Daniel answered on the fourth ring. At first, I could barely get the words out. I said my name, then my mother's name, then my father's name, and there was a pause on the other end. I remember the file, he said carefully. I'm sorry about your father. That almost broke me. It was the first sentence in days that didn't feel like someone wanted something from me. I pressed my palm against my forehead. I need to ask you something about the house. Okay. My stepmother just gave me a lease. Another pause. What kind of lease? A residential lease. For my bedroom. She says if I don't pay rent, I have 30 days to leave. Daniel didn't speak right away. I could hear papers moving on his end, then a keyboard. She said she's the surviving spouse, I continued. She said everything my dad owned belongs to her, and now she's the head of the household. Daniel exhaled quietly. It wasn't a laugh. It was the sound adults make when someone has done something stupid and expensive. Ashley, he said, your father did not own that house. I closed my eyes. She can't charge you rent for property she doesn't own. She can't remove you from property she doesn't own. And if she is representing herself as the owner, she needs to stop immediately. My chest tightened. So I'm not crazy? No, you are not crazy. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. He asked me to send a photo of the lease. I did. Then he asked if Donna had put the demand in writing anywhere else. I told him she had given me 48 hours to sign, and Ryan had already measured my room. This time, Daniel went quiet long enough that I checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. She has been living there with your father's permission, he said. That permission ended when your father passed, but removing someone from a home still has to be done through the proper steps. Don't threaten her. Don't change the locks. Don't touch her belongings. Let the paperwork do the talking. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. He told me the legal office still had my mother's trust file. The house had been placed in trust before my father remarried. My father had a life estate, which meant he could live there for the rest of his life, but he never had the right to transfer ownership to Donna. When your father died, Daniel said, his life estate ended. The trust terms control what happens next. And that means? It means the house belongs to you now. I didn't cry when he said it. I stared at the bedroom door, listening to Donna and Ryan moving around downstairs like they owned the place, and felt something inside me sharpen. Daniel told me they could prepare a formal notice. The notice would name Donna and every adult occupant. It would give the required time to leave, and if they refused after that, the office could help me take the next legal step through court. That mattered. I didn't want to do anything messy. I didn't want to be the person Donna could point to and call unstable. I knew how she operated. She provoked people, then performed innocence once they reacted. So I did not react. For 3 days, I lived in the same house as her and said almost nothing. Donna seemed to take my silence as defeat. On the first day, she left the lease on the counter with a pen placed neatly beside it. Every time I walked into the kitchen, she looked at the paper, then at me. On the second day, Ryan brought boxes into the hallway. Not many. Just enough for me to see them. He stacked them near my bedroom door. I nearly tripped over one when I came out to use the bathroom. Careful, he said from the top of the stairs. Wouldn't want you breaking anything before move out. I stepped over the box and kept walking. He followed me with his voice. Mom said you're probably going to your aunt's place. I stopped halfway down the stairs. Donna was in the living room, pretending not to listen. I looked back at Ryan. Did she? He grinned. Or maybe a friend's couch. Not really my problem. Donna finally spoke from the couch. Don't start a fight, Ryan. But she smiled as she said it. That was the part one we'll never forget. Not the lease. Not the amount. Not even the threat. The smile. My father had been gone for days, and they were enjoying this. On the third day, Donna knocked on my door. I didn't answer. She knocked again, harder. Ashley, we need to discuss your decision. I was sitting on the floor with my laptop open, reading the documents Daniel had sent. My mother's name appeared again and again. Every time I saw it, I felt like she was reaching through the screen to steady my hand. Donna knocked a third time. Ignoring me doesn't change the deadline. I kept reading. If you think your father's family will let you freeload off me, you're mistaken. That made me look up. Of course, she had already started calling them. Donna never fought alone. She built audiences. She collected sympathy. She told half a story and let people fill in the rest. I heard her walk away. That evening, my phone started buzzing. First it was my Aunt Kathleen. Then my Uncle Gary. Then 2 cousins I barely talked to. The messages were gentle at first. Donna says things are tense at the house. Are you being difficult? Your father would want you to help her. Then they got sharper. You're old enough to support yourself. Donna is grieving too. Don't make this about money. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't care. Because explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you only gives them more words to twist. By Friday morning, Daniel told me the notice was ready. He asked if I wanted it sent directly. I almost said yes. Then I thought about the lease on the granite island. The pen. The boxes outside my room. Ryan's tape measure. No, I said. Email me a copy. I'll print it. Daniel hesitated. Are you sure? I won't do anything illegal. I know. Just be careful. I printed the notice after work. My hands were steady as I paid for it. That scared me a little. For days, grief had turned me into water. Unable to hold a shape. Unable to stand up straight. But holding that notice, I felt like bone again. When I got home, Ryan's boxes were gone from the hallway. For 1 second, I thought maybe Donna had backed off. Then I heard him in the living room. Metal snapped against metal. The sharp clack of a tape measure. Ryan was measuring the wall beside the window when I stepped into the living room. He had his phone propped on the mantel, recording himself like this was content. A ring light leaned against the couch. 2 empty soda cans sat on the coffee table. Donna sat near the window with a glass of wine, watching him work like a proud mother overseeing renovations. Melissa was there too, curled in the armchair, scrolling on her phone. She glanced up when I walked in, then looked away. The living room had belonged to my mother in every emotional way a room can belong to someone. She had chosen the cream curtains. She had found the old wooden coffee table at a yard sale and refinished it herself. She had insisted the room needed plants, even though my dad killed every plant he touched. Now Ryan was pointing at the wall and saying, Desk here. Monitor arms here. Sound panels on this side. Donna took a sip of wine. That room upstairs will work better, though. My room, I said. Ryan turned around, still holding the tape measure. For now. Donna smiled at me over the rim of her glass. Have you signed? I walked farther into the room. The folded notice was in my sweater pocket. I could feel the edge of it against my fingers. No. Donna set her glass down. Then I assume you've made your decision. I have. Something about my voice made Melissa look up again. Donna leaned back against the couch. Good. Then we can stop pretending this is complicated. Ryan laughed under his breath. I looked at him. Turn off your phone. His smile faded. What? Turn it off. Donna straightened. Don't speak to him like that. If he records me, this gets uglier than it needs to. Ryan glanced at his phone, then at his mother. He wanted to argue. But something in my face must have made him think twice, because he reached over and stopped the recording. Donna's eyes narrowed. You're being very dramatic. I took the notice from my pocket and placed it on the coffee table. Donna stared at it like it was a dirty napkin. What is this? Read it. She picked it up with 2 fingers, unfolded it, and scanned the top line. Her mouth twitched. Then she laughed. You cannot be serious. Ryan stepped closer. What is it? Donna tossed the paper onto the table. A notice to vacate. From her. Melissa sat up slowly. Ryan looked at me, then at the paper, then back at me. You're giving us an eviction notice? I'm giving you a legal notice prepared by the office handling my mother's trust. Donna's face hardened. Your mother's trust has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with this house. She stood. For the first time since my dad died, her perfect calm cracked. This was your father's home. No, it was my mother's house. My father had the right to live here while he was alive. That right ended when he died. Donna stared at me. I could almost see the math happening behind her eyes. The lease. The rent. The bedroom. The control she thought she had already secured. I continued before she could interrupt. The house was never part of Dad's estate. It doesn't pass to you as his spouse. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to me now. Ryan scoffed. That's not how marriage works. I turned to him. That's exactly how trusts work. His jaw tightened. Donna picked up the notice again. This time, she read more carefully. Her face changed line by line. At first, annoyance. Then confusion. Then something close to panic. She looked up. This is fake. It isn't. I want to speak to your father's lawyer. You can speak to whoever you want. You little. Careful, I said. The word came out quietly, but it landed. Donna's eyes flashed. You think one piece of paper scares me? No. I think the court will. That made Melissa whisper, Mom. Donna ignored her. I looked at all 3 of them. The notice names every adult occupant. You have the time listed there to leave. If you refuse, the next step is a formal court filing. If a judge orders removal after that, law enforcement can enforce it. That is not a threat. That is the process. Ryan's face had gone pale beneath the anger. So I don't get the room, he said. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because that was still what mattered to him. No, Ryan. You don't get my room. Donna snapped. You have no right to speak to my son like that. You tried to give him my bedroom while my father's funeral flowers were still alive on the dining room table. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time, the room belonged to me. I didn't feel powerful. I felt exhausted. But there is a kind of strength that comes when someone pushes you so far you stop caring whether they like how you stand up. Donna gripped the paper hard enough to bend it. Your father would be ashamed of you. That one hit. She knew exactly where to aim. I looked toward the hallway, where one of my dad's old jackets still hung by the front door. For a second, I could hear his voice telling me to keep the peace. To let things settle. To be patient. But patience had never protected me. It had only made me easier to erase. No, I said. Dad would be uncomfortable. There's a difference. Donna blinked. He would hate the conflict. He would hate that I'm saying this out loud. But he knew this house was never his to give away. My voice almost broke there, so I stopped. Melissa stood and picked up her bag. Donna turned on her. Sit down. Melissa didn't. I'm not getting dragged into court over a house that isn't ours. Ryan snapped. Are you serious? She looked at him. You were measuring her bedroom. He said nothing. Donna's anger shifted toward Melissa for half a second, then back to me. I took care of your father. I know. I cooked for him. I cleaned this house. I stood beside him. I know. And this is how you repay me? You tried to make me pay rent to stay in the room my mother left for me. Donna's eyes filled with tears. Real or not, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. People can be grieving and cruel at the same time. She had lost my father too. But she had also tried to use that loss as a weapon before the dirt on his grave had settled. She pointed toward the stairs. You have been waiting for this. No. Yes, you have. You've always hated me. I hated how you treated me. I was the only mother figure you had. The words landed like a slap. Even Ryan looked away. I stepped closer to the coffee table. My mother's name was Laura, I said. And you spent 6 years trying to make this house forget her. Donna's face twisted. There it was. The wound under everything. She could tolerate me as long as I was quiet. As long as I acted like a guest. What she could never tolerate was the fact that the house remembered someone before her. The curtains. The garden. The molding. The trust. My mother was dead, and Donna was still competing with her. I picked up the notice and placed it in Donna's hand. Keep that copy. Her fingers closed around it. Ryan muttered, "This is insane." I looked at him. What's insane is measuring a grieving woman's bedroom before asking whether you had a right to be in the house. He flushed. Donna stepped close enough that I could smell the wine on her breath. You are going to regret humiliating me. I held her stare. I already regret letting you think I was helpless. Her hand tightened around the paper. For a second, I thought she might slap me. Instead, she turned and hurled her wine glass into the fireplace. It shattered so loudly Melissa gasped. Red wine splashed across the brick and dripped down like a stain. Donna started screaming then. Grief, rage, fear, humiliation, all tangled together. When the words came, they were ugly. She called me heartless. She called me greedy. She called me a snake. Ryan shouted over her, demanding to know where he was supposed to go. Melissa told him to stop. Donna cried harder. The whole room collapsed into noise. I didn't stay. I walked upstairs while Donna screamed my name. My hands shook only after I locked my bedroom door. The next morning, the house felt poisoned. Donna had stopped screaming sometime after midnight, but the damage stayed in the walls. The broken glass had been swept from the fireplace badly. A shard glittered near the rug when I went downstairs for water. The coffee table had a wine ring on it. Ryan's ring light was gone. Donna was in the kitchen, gripping a mug with both hands. Her eyes were puffy. Her hair was loose. For the first time since my dad's death, she looked like someone who had slept badly. She watched me open a cabinet. You're really doing this, she said. I took down a glass. Yes, after everything I did for your father. I filled the glass with water. This isn't about punishing you for being married to him. She laughed bitterly. No, because it feels like punishment. It's about you trying to remove me first. Her face hardened. I gave you options. You gave me a lease for a house you don't own. You could have talked to me. I turned around. You gave me 48 hours. She looked away. For a moment, I saw something like embarrassment. It was gone quickly, buried under anger. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. I didn't answer right away. That question had been haunting me since the night before. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I wasn't made of stone. Donna had lived there for 6 years. She had closets full of clothes, boxes of holiday decorations, dishes in the cabinets. Removing someone from a home, even when you are legally right, is not clean. But then I remembered the lease. I remembered Ryan's tape measure. I remembered being told adulthood meant paying rent to a woman who had waited 2 weeks after my father's death to make her move. I don't know, I said. But you are ready to make that my problem. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I think she finally understood that tears would not work. By noon, my phone was a disaster. Kathleen sent 3 long messages before I had even finished breakfast. Donna is devastated. You need to calm down. Your father would never want his widow forced out. This is not how family behaves. Gary called twice. I let it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, his voice was tight with disappointment. Ashley, I know emotions are high, but you're acting too fast. Donna just buried her husband. You can't throw her out like trash. I don't care what papers say. There's a right way to treat people. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. There's a right way to treat people. Where had that been when Donna treated me like a squatter in my own childhood home? Where had the concern been when my dad was alive and I was slowly being pushed out of every shared space? Why did everyone suddenly care about kindness only when I stopped being convenient? I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Finally, I wrote one message and sent it to both Kathleen and Gary. Donna attempted to make me sign a lease for a house she does not own and told me to leave within 30 days if I refused. The house was left to me through my mother's trust. I am following legal advice. I will not discuss this further by text. Kathleen replied within a minute. That still doesn't make it moral. Maybe she was right. That was the part one couldn't fully escape. Being right did not make me feel clean. By evening, Donna's side of the house had changed. Boxes appeared near the dining room. Cabinet doors opened and slammed. Packing tape ripped again and again. Ryan moved through the hallway with heavy steps, muttering under his breath. Melissa left first. She didn't make a scene. She came upstairs and knocked softly on my door. When I opened it, she stood there with a duffel bag over one shoulder. I'm going to stay with a friend, she said. I nodded. She looked embarrassed. I didn't know about the trust. I figured. I should have said something when Ryan started measuring. I didn't know what to say to that. She shifted her weight. I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. It couldn't fix anything. But it was the first apology anyone in that house had offered me. Thank you, I said. She glanced down the hallway. Mom is telling people you planned this. I know. I don't think you did. That almost hurt more than if she had blamed me. Melissa left before dinner. Ryan stayed for 2 more days, mostly because he had nowhere else lined up and too much pride to admit he was panicking. He stopped making jokes. He stopped smiling. He carried his equipment out piece by piece, each trip louder than necessary. On the second night, he stood at the bottom of the stairs. You ruined everything, he said. I was halfway up, holding a basket of laundry. I turned. I ruined your plan to take my room. You don't even use all that space. There it was again. That entitlement so casual it barely sounded like entitlement to him. It's not about space. It's a house. People need places to live. I agree. Then why are you doing this? Because needing something doesn't give you the right to take it. He looked away first. Ryan left the next morning. Donna did not help him carry boxes. She stood in the doorway of her bedroom while he dragged bags toward the front door, crying softly enough for everyone to hear. When he slammed the door behind him, she turned to me. I hope you're proud. I wasn't. That was the strange truth. I wasn't proud. I wasn't celebrating. I didn't feel like some victorious woman standing over the ruins of her enemies. I felt tired. I felt older. I felt like I had protected something important and lost whatever childish part of me still believed fairness would feel good. Over the next week, Donna packed in bursts. Some hours she moved quickly, slamming drawers and muttering. Other times she sat at the kitchen table surrounded by half-filled boxes, crying into tissues and calling people who were only getting her version of the story. I heard my name in those calls. Ungrateful. Cruel. Obsessed with money. Turned on me the second her father was gone. Once I heard her say, Brian would be disgusted. I closed my bedroom door before I could hear more. At night, I went through my mother's old things. Not everything had survived Donna's years in the house. Some photos had been boxed away. Some decorations were gone. The floral curtains from my childhood bedroom had disappeared long ago. But in a storage bin at the back of a closet, I found a small bundle wrapped in tissue paper. My mother's measuring tape. It was soft, yellowed, and curled at the edges. For some reason, that broke me. I sat on the floor holding it and cried until my chest hurt. Because my mother had tried so hard to leave me safety. And for 6 years, I had let someone make me feel like a burden inside it. Donna found an apartment before the notice period ended. I learned that from overhearing her on the phone, not because she told me. She described it as small, overpriced, and beneath her. She said she couldn't believe she had been reduced to this. Reduced. That was the word she used. As if living without my mother's house was a fall from status. The day she moved out, it rained. Not dramatically. Just steady, gray rain that made the boxes sag and the driveway slick. Gary came with a truck. He did not look at me when he arrived. Kathleen sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, watching the front door like she was waiting for me to come out and beg forgiveness. I didn't. I stayed inside and documented everything. Daniel had told me to take photos before, during, and after the move out. Not to be cruel. To protect myself. So I photographed the walls, the floors, the broken fireplace brick, the scuffed baseboards, the empty cabinets. I took pictures of the rooms I had lived in for most of my life and barely recognized. Donna made one final trip through the house near sunset. Her makeup had run slightly under one eye. Her coat was damp. She stood in the living room and looked around with a face I couldn't read. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, "You'll be alone here." I lowered my phone. She looked at me. "You think this house will love you back?" "It won't." The words were cruel, but quieter than usual. I could have answered with something sharp. I had plenty of sharp things left. I only said, "Goodbye, Donna." Her mouth trembled, then hardened. She picked up her purse and walked out. Gary shut the door behind her harder than he needed to, and then, for the first time in 6 years, the house was silent. Not tense. Not waiting. Silent. I stood in the living room for a long time. The rain tapped against the windows. Somewhere upstairs, the old pipes knocked. The house smelled like cardboard, dust, and wine that never fully came out of the fireplace brick. I expected relief to hit me all at once. It didn't. What came first was grief. Real grief. The kind I had not been allowed to feel because survival had barged in and taken over. I sat on the floor beside the coffee table and cried for my dad. Not the version Donna used as a weapon. Not the version my relatives imagined, gentle and perfect and disappointed in me. My real dad. The man who made pancakes too dark and pretended they were caramelized. The man who sang badly in the car. The man who loved me but failed me because he was too tired, too passive, or too afraid of conflict to protect me from the woman he married. I cried because I loved him. I cried because I was angry at him. Both things were true, and neither erased the other. A week after Donna left, Emily came over. She was one of the few friends who had not immediately chosen a side. She brought takeout and stood in the doorway holding 2 bags like she was approaching an injured animal. "I didn't know if you'd eaten," she said. "I haven't." I figured. We sat on the kitchen floor because the table was covered in documents, old mail, and cleaning supplies. For a while, we ate without talking. Then Emily looked around and said, "It feels different." Empty? No, she thought about it. Like it stopped holding its breath. That stayed with me. I told her everything. The lease. The tape measure. The notice. The messages from family. Donna's last words. Emily listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "I don't think you were wrong." But, she sighed. "But I understand why people think it looks harsh from the outside." I laughed once, quietly. That's the nicest version of what everyone else said. I'm not saying they're right. I'm saying people love simple stories. Grieving widow gets kicked out by stepdaughter sounds simple. Woman tries to steal a dead mother's house from her daughter is less convenient. I looked down at my food. "She lost him too," I said. "She did. And I still made her leave." Emily nodded. "After she tried to make you leave first." That was the sentence I kept coming back to. After she tried first. People wanted me to treat Donna's grief like a shield. Like her pain made her actions untouchable. But grief does not give someone ownership over what was never theirs. It does not turn cruelty into survival. It does not make theft softer because the thief is crying. The calls slowed after Donna moved. Not because my relatives changed their minds. Because I stopped answering. Kathleen sent one final message that said she hoped I could live with myself. I didn't reply. Gary left a voicemail saying the family was disappointed. I deleted it halfway through. Ryan blocked me after posting something vague online about fake family and people showing their true colors. Melissa texted me once to say she was sorry again and hoped I was okay. I told her I hoped she was too. Donna sent nothing. That almost bothered me more. I kept expecting one final message. One accusation. One curse. One last attempt to make me feel small. But there was only silence. Slowly, I started putting the house back together. I took down Donna's gray curtains and found lighter ones folded in a linen closet. I cleaned the fireplace as best I could. I moved my mother's photos back into the hallway, not all at once, but one at a time. A picture from her garden. A picture of her holding me as a baby. A picture of her and my dad before everything got complicated. I stood in front of that one for a long time. They looked young, happy, unaware of all the ways life would split open. I didn't remove my dad from the house. I couldn't. He belonged there too, even if he had made mistakes inside it. That was the hardest part to accept. Protecting my mother's legacy did not mean erasing my father. Being angry at him did not mean I stopped loving him. And refusing to let Donna take the house did not mean I enjoyed watching her lose her place in it. One Saturday morning, I went into the backyard. The garden was overgrown. Donna had ignored most of it except for trimming whatever could be seen from the kitchen window. Weeds had pushed through the beds. One rosebush was half dead, bent sideways from neglect. I knelt in the dirt with my mother's old gloves and started pulling weeds. At first, I worked angrily. I ripped at roots, tossed clumps into a trash bag, and scraped my knuckles against the soil. Then the anger faded. The garden was quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't demand anything from you. By noon, my hands were filthy. My back hurt. The rose bush still looked terrible, but I could finally see the shape of the bed again. That felt like enough. I sat on the back steps, drinking water from the bottle beside me, and looked at the house. For years, I had thought of it as a place I needed to escape. Now it was mine. Not in a triumphant way. Not like a prize. More like a responsibility. My mother had left me walls, but she had also left me a choice. I could let other people's guilt decide what I deserved, or I could protect the one thing she had fought to secure before she died. I chose to protect it. Some days, I still wonder if I moved too fast. I wonder if a kinder person would have given Donna more time. I wonder if my dad would have asked me to soften, to compromise, to avoid the ugly scene. Maybe he would have. But I also think my mother would have looked at that lease on the counter, looked at Ryan's tape measure, and told me to stop letting people steal from me politely. So that's where I am now. The house is quieter. The family is divided. Donna is gone. My father's side still thinks I acted without mercy. Some friends think I did what I had to do but hate how cold it looked. I don't know if calm victory is supposed to feel this heavy. All I know is that 2 weeks after my father died, his wife tried to turn me into a tenant in the home my mother left behind. And for once in my life, I refused to keep the peace just so someone else could take everything.